Wesley Miller, what's up, bro?
Not much, man. Just enjoying the day off today with the rain and the bad weather outside.
Yeah. So, man, you've been doing this. How long you been doing this now?
Well, about going on 4 years. Well, I've been guiding for money for about 3 years.
Okay.
Fishing my whole life. Every day I get the chance. So, just recently got the opportunity to do it for a living.
What'd you do beforehand?
I'm a registered nurse of 23 years.
You don't look like a nurse.
Most people don't say. Most people say I don't look like a nurse, and a lot of people were always surprised when I walked in their room looking like this. But I always prided myself in trying to do a good job nursing, and I think that everybody always saw that and looked past the appearance.
Yeah. Well, so what got you? Okay, so first off, tell me. Did you grow up because you're big into a lot of fishing, a lot of all types of fishing and guiding? What got you into that?
Man, I have wanted to go fishing as long as I can remember. That's all I've wanted to do. I mean, it's been engraved in me ever since I was big enough to walk.
Was that something like you did with a family member, or you just you got the itch on its own, or?
Both. When I was growing up, my parents always took us fishing. We lived on big farms. We had 7 or 8 big ponds that were within walking distance, or we could ride there on our bicycles. So it's just something, growing up and living out in the country is just something that we just always have done. It's just always been my love. I mean, literally ever since I can remember, fishing is all I've wanted to do.
I grew up. My grandparents, my grandfather's dead now, but my grandmother still lives on Lake Bistineau, and I grew up fishing Bistineau since I was old enough to get out there and paddle P-row. You know what I mean? But so I can relate, man. But I'm detached from it. I haven't really fished much. I've done a little pond hopping, past couple of years, but I've just with life and stuff. It hasn't been on the top of my list of things to do. But I kind of. I've been seeing what you've been doing, and I'm just like, man, this is I want to talk about this stuff because I haven't done it in forever, and the game has changed a lot. Since I used to fish, I used to do a lot of tournament bass fishing. I fished with Webster Bass Masters, and we fished all over the place and all that. Never did any big money stuff, but I'd fish, do a lot of club tournaments and top 6 and stuff like that. But I just, I never did the white perch, the crappie thing, and never did that much unless I accidentally caught one when I was, fishing for brim or something, because I'd always go, do a little, tight lining with some fresh crawfish and get some damn cheeky pin or something,
Sure.
But yeah, man. So what's going on in that world? I know the live scope's out now, and that's something that
the live scopes are just an absolute game changer.
Are you doing that with guides? Or are you doing all types?
No, that's with guiding, and the live scope has changed the landscape of fishing so much, and it's one of the reasons why I got into the guiding side of it. I'd always wanted to guide fishing trips, but until live scope came along, it was really hard to be a consistent guide in this area, and I was always scared to I didn't want to go be one of these people that didn't catch fish, and at the end of the day you still got your hand out wanting a payment.
Yeah.
So with live scope, it's allowed us to be much more consistent with our fishing. We catch fish almost every day, so it was a lot easier to become a guide and be a real consistent guide using the live scope technology. So that really did allow me to make that jump from being a nurse to being a guide, a successful fishing guide.
Tell me how that works, because I honest to God, I haven't even used one. I just know people that are using them now. But yeah, how does it work?
It's almost like an ultrasound machine on your boat, and it's just a forward facing sonar. So you can actually, the beam shoots out in front of your boat. I keep mine set on 50 foot. So while I'm out there fishing, I can move my trolling motor side to side, and I can literally see everything in the water 50 foot around my boat. And you can see individual fish, and we can pull up there and set our jig down in front of that fish and watch the fish come up and eat the jig. I mean, so it's just a really neat way to fish, and it's just really productive because you can automatically pull up on a spot, scan around for a minute. Okay, there's no fish here. Let's go somewhere else where there is. It doesn't make the fish bite the jig, but it makes you so much more efficient fisherman to be able to find the really productive areas very quickly and capitalize on it.
Is it something? Is it being used for like largemouth bass yet?
Oh yeah, okay. And the bass fishermen, they're a little bit behind on it because when all this technology first came out, the whole feeling with the bass fishermen was like, oh, we fish too shallow water. That's not going to be anything. It's going to help us. They're behind the crappie fishermen. The crappie fishermen are worlds ahead of what the
That's
bass
crazy
fishermen
because
are.
it used to be the flip. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like bass fishing was so advanced, and crappie still used to have guys in 10 boats out there, you know, flipping jigs,
Yeah.
you know, in 15 foot of water.
Sure.
And you know, you'd have these guys with $100,000 bass rigs, whereas now you have $100,000 crappie rigs.
Well,
Pretty much.
now we have that $100,000 crappie rig
Yeah.
with $20,000 worth of electronics
Yeah.
on it that the bass fishermen don't even have.
Yeah.
I mean, the crappie industry is so far ahead on electronics and the way the boats are being set up and stuff that we're really getting a lot of the bass fishermen to really take notice and look at what we're doing. And there's a lot of the bass fishermen, and really the really good bass fishermen are really taking this technology and running with it because it works just as good for bass as it does crappie.
Well, so tell me how it works initially. So like you put it out there, it's reading out 50 foot. You troll. If people listening or watching don't know, is you have a little motor on the front of your boat, and you're basically, you know, it's a mini motor that's kind of guiding you.
It's an electric trolling motor. It fits on the front of your boat, and that camera, if you will, is attached to your trolling motor. Is the way I have mine. Some people set them up different, but you scan around, and it makes a very small slice out in front of you. So it's only got an 18-degree window out in front of you. So it's showing a slice of the water. So you had to, and what you see on the screen is that little tiny slice of the water. So as you scan around, you can see a brush pile comes in and out, and it almost looks like you're looking at an ultrasound machine.
Yeah.
As you're scanning around, what you're seeing on the screen is what's directly in front of that motor. So you can, as you're easing up to a fish, you'll learn where you got to position your jig out there to have it come down, and you'll see it come down the screen. You'll see the fish react to it, and they'll either swim up and eat it or they'll swim off. Some of them swim off like they're scared of it, but that's basically how it works.
So it's not, I mean, I guess it's something that it's not emitting a frequency. They don't even know it's there until this is something that, like, well, let me ask you this. So, like, has there been a lot of pushback? Because we talked about this a little bit before we started, but, like, I would feel like traditional guys who've done it forever one way are like, I'm not doing that, you know, that technology crap because this is how you're supposed to fish, you know what I mean? Kind of tough grit fisherman, you know what I mean?
There's a few of them hanging on to that feeling, but the vast majority of them, I don't care how diehard of whatever kind of fisherman you are, that you step in the boat with me, see how that works, use it a little bit. The vast majority of them go right on and go buy them one.
Yeah,
because it's that big of a game changer, and, you know, and you still got to make the fish bite. You still got to do everything right to catch that fish. This just gives you a great way to find fish easier and to present your bait to them in a correct way.
I could see where, especially if it's competitive, if they're like, okay, well, I have to do this now if I want to compete because these guys are doing it.
You don't show up to a crappie tournament without one anymore.
No, I mean, I would hope not, because I mean, I've seen people like Justin Smart who went to school with me. I know you and him fish a lot together and stuff. I've seen that kind of progress into what it is now, and I'm just like, damn, it's such a huge industry. But I remember when Carolina rig came out, you know what I mean? Like, that was a big deal. That's how old school I am with the tactics, as far as I'm not even advanced to what's going on now. But I remember when that was a thing where they're like, what? We're rigging this worm in, 20 foot of water and fishing. Like, that was unheard of, bass fishing,
But it's just like whenever you had when you first down imaging, depth finder came.
Yeah.
That was the end of having secret brush tops.
Yeah.
Everybody.
That's not happening no more.
Everybody talked about this is going to ruin fishing. Well, then they came out with side imaging.
Yeah.
And then you could really, really break down lakes and find stuff and fish a whole lot different. And this is just a progression of that. The people that are naysayers and say, that's ruining fishing or whatever, they just need to get out and give it a chance and give it a try and, see how they feel about it after that.
Yeah. What kind of guiding do you do? Besides, you just do crappie, or do you?
Right now, I'm just doing crappie. I've really thought about maybe getting into some catfish and some bass fishing with it. But right now it's just crappie, and it's keeping me busy. I'm booked up a month and a half in advance, year round. So and I'm just running with them, trying to fish as many days as I can.
Is that you don't ever get burnt out?
No,
no.
I
felt like I got burnt out, but I think I got burnt out because it was tournaments. It was always tournaments. You know what I mean? And I feel like the pressure. You know how that is because you fish tournaments. So
I am burnt out of the tournaments.
Yeah.
That's just not. I mean, it's fun. But it's just not that much fun. It's horribly expensive. When you're trying to fish every day for a living, if I take off for a tournament, I'm losing $3,000 on guide trip money for the week.
Yeah.
That's before I've even paid an entry fee, before I paid lodging, anything. So when I got to take off a week to go to a tournament, I'd have to finish in the top 2 or 3 to even make my money back. And I'm not, generally not doing that because there's some guys that are better at it than me. But, so the tournaments, I get burned out on that. But on my everyday fishing, the days I feel a little bad, like, man, it was a long day, it was tough, I think to myself, today I didn't have to wipe anybody's ass but mine.
Yeah.
So I'm not nursing anymore. I'm not doing any of the terrible stuff that went with that. I'm not dealing with people on that level anymore. And I'm doing something that when people show up that morning, everybody wants to be there. They want to do it, and they want to have a good time. And if I remember that, and I feed off that, the days go good.
Well, you don't strike me as someone that would tell me, how did you get into nursing? Like, how did that happen?
Man, well, when I was a kid, I was 5 years old. I was in a 3-wheeler accident. I was burned horribly bad on a 3-wheeler. It went from the top of my head down in the middle of my back, all the way down my shoulder. So
how did that happen?
It was a little 70cc 3-wheeler. I got thrown off of it. It rolled up on me, and I was out there riding by myself in the yard. Right out here after school, we did it every day, and the muffler got on me and burned me.
Man.
So between the age of 5 and 10, I had 13 plastic surgeries. That's in the summertime. That's what I did. I went and had surgery so I could get back healthy to go to school. So having spent time in the hospital like that as a kid and spent so much time in the hospital, nursing kind of came to me because of something. It was kind of like something I knew, even though I probably shouldn't have at that age. And I just knew I liked to help people and wanted to help people. And when I graduated high school back in '96, there wasn't the Haynesville Shale, there wasn't all this oil field stuff around here. And unless you did something like nursing, you were going to have to move off and go somewhere else. Well, I like to eat my mama's cooking too much to go way off. So, also, my older brother's a nurse, and he, I could see he enjoyed his career. He was getting paid pretty good. So, it was just something I went and did. Being that I laid in the hospital bed that many years and that long, that gave me a good empathy to be able to go and do my job and say, I know what it feels like for you to lay in that bed, and I know how to try to make you feel better. So, it was just something that I was always real good at. And I always enjoyed doing. Like you said, after 20 years, you get burnt out on stuff. And with the COVID and just all the way that affected the medical field and how terribly nurses are being treated for those couple of years, it was when I got the opportunity to step out of it, I just got right on out of it.
Well, I think it's interesting that you realize that at that young of an age. You know what I mean? A lot of people, they're still grown and don't know what the hell they want to do with their life. You know what I mean? Just having that, awareness to say, okay, this is something that I may be interested in. It's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then the first year I went to nursing school, I failed out. And then I went to a year at Howard Lumber University in Minden, where I carried heavy shit for a year. And next time I went back to school, I was like, I really want to go back to school this time. Yeah. So I made it work the second time.
Yeah. What areas did you do nursing in?
Everything.
Okay, so you've done everything from the ER to the psych ward, everything?
I never did psych.
Oh, you didn't do psych,
I did, ER, ICU, all the floors, any kind of floor. I did travel nursing, agency nursing.
There's a lot of money in that travel nursing shit, man.
There is now. But, get right back to wanting to eat my mama's cooking.
Exactly,
trying to go to California to live.
It's always seems to be there, right? They always need them over there.
They pay so much money over there. There's guys going over there making $200,000-$300,000. They're making doctor money as nurses. Going to California.
That's crazy.
It's big. It's a big deal. But there again, when you go to situations like that, you're short-staffed. You're working like a dog. I'm 45 years old. I've done all that. I'm wanting to do something I enjoy doing.
Yeah. Well, what kind of boat you running these days?
Ooh, I got a 21-foot Ranger.
Nice.
It's an 06 Ranger with a 2020 motor on it.
Okay.
These days you can buy a used older boat. Well, especially Rangers, they're made like tanks.
They're amazing,
wonderful boats. Put a new motor on it. Right now a new Ranger boat's costing over $100,000.
Yeah, man, that's insane.
You can go buy a used one with the older motor on it, sell that motor for $4,000 or $5,000, buy you a brand new one, and for less than $40,000, you can be in basically a brand new boat.
Well, you have what are you running? Mercury or Yamaha?
250 Mercury.
Mercury. Yeah. That's another thing that's changed the game is the size of the motors too. Like, I mean, what's the largest one out now? Is it 3? It's over 300 now, right?
It's 450.
Yeah. See, there you go. Like, I remember when the 200 or 225 Merc come out, and everybody was like, "Holy shit!" And they run them on Blazers, The game has changed, man. It's like, but it's important, I guess, in tournament fishing because you get to that spot as quick as you can. Try it.
Yeah, my boat's not fast. My boat goes like 60.
Shit, that's fast on the water for but I've been in
going 80.
Yeah, I've been in some I've never been 80 in one. I've been 70 in one before.
The new Bass Cats go 80. And
Damn.
I don't have any interest in going that fast. It's not for me. Like I say, I'm getting older. I want to go slower. All the old folks I take fishing, they don't want to go fast. They just want to get there and back in one piece.
Well, that's another thing. So like that's something that it's not talked about. So what all lakes? So for people who are listening that aren't from here, like what all lakes are you covering? Like, are you into Texas, North Louisiana? Where are you all at? Where are you working
we're doing
at?
a little bit in Texas. So in Texas, I'll go fish Lake Merville, Lake of the Pines. Here in the Arklatex, I'm fishing Grand Bayou, the Red Rivers, both pools 4 and 5, Cross Lake, Cypress Lake, Bistineau, going into South Arkansas, going to Lake Erland, going to Darbone, going to Caney and Jonesboro. So basically everything in North and Northwest Louisiana, at some point during the year, I'm going to go fish. But I may go fish in 6 days. I might go fish 5 or 6 different lakes, just depending on what the wind's doing, what the rainfall's doing, lake levels.
So people will seek you out and just say, "I want to fish."
Yeah.
And then you say, "Okay, we're going to fish here."
Yeah.
It's not a, "Hey, I want to fish Darbone." Call you.
And sometimes if they call me and say, "I want to go to a specific place," I'll say, if it happens to be that time of year where that place is going to be great, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, we'll go right there." But say if it's in the heat of the summertime, for whatever reason, Darbone gets incredibly hard to fish.
Yeah.
And people will call me up, "I want to go Darbone." I'm like, "Okay, we can go, but I'm going to tell you the truth. It's going to be tough. We may not catch a whole lot of fish, or we can go to Red River. We're going to go tear them up." I give them the opportunity, to make their decision where they want to go, but I'm going to give them the best option, what I think is the best option first.
Yeah. Have you how's Bistineau looking lately? I saw someone post a picture the other day and said it looked clean right now, but that's just because it's not hot yet.
Yeah, Bistineau looks great, but as soon as it gets hot, the Sylvania will explode, and by the end of July, it'll be 6,000 acres of it, 6 to 10,000 acres of it on the lake, and it'll be time to drain it again.
Are they not doing anything with that? I mean,
There's nothing can be done with it.
Okay, so because last I heard, it's like they're trying this, they're trying that, or they're not doing certain things because they're making money off this or that. I didn't know what
the only way they could ever fix Bistineau would be to cut 90% of the trees off the lake. And people throw a fit about that. And
is that just because the trees keep it from
moving
around? Because the wind moves it everywhere, right?
Yeah, the only lakes, say, if you go to your open water lakes around here, Cypress, Cross, Claiborne, you go to all these open water lakes, you can go find it if you go look for it.
Yeah, it's in the corner somewhere.
It's in the corner somewhere.
Yeah.
But whenever the wind gets up, it blows up on the bank, this stuff dies. In Bistineau, there's so many trees around it and thickets of trees, it doesn't blow around the wind and wave action never pushes it up on the bank and kills it. So Bistineau is just a perfect breeding ground for giant Sylvanian until they cut the vast amount of trees off of it, which you're not going to do. We're going to be doing exactly what we're doing now.
Just draining it, and it'd be nice first part of the year, and then it's going to be covered in the rest of the year until it gets cold again.
Yeah, and that's just that's just how it's going to be. And for people that are not from here, Lake Bistineau should be the 8th wonder of the world.
It really should, because I remember when it was amazing. I remember growing up there. I mean, all you had was little moss and lily pads. That was it. You weren't dealing with this invasive species of plant that just takes over everything. Yeah, draws oxygen out of the water, everything.
Yeah, but the people have never seen Lake Bistineau. It would be worth the trip to this part of the world just to see Lake Bistineau or Caddo Lake or Black Lake, because they're flooded cypress tree forests. It's some of the most beautiful places in the world, in my opinion. I hate to see them look like they do.
Yeah. I haven't been to Caddo lately. Is it about the same too, or yeah?
Caddo's a little bit more open of a body of water. Some of the places it doesn't seem to be as bad, and Texas spends a little bit more money than Louisiana does, because Texas just care. I hate to say it, they care more about their waterways and their recreational places for people to be able to use.
Yeah,
Texas just puts more money into it and more emphasis on it.
Well, are you flipping jigs mainly? Or are we doing like shiner?
I don't fish anything but artificials.
Okay, so when you guide, that's all you use too?
That's it.
Okay, so you're not taking people out there with shiners or nothing like that?
Don't put them, and I tie most all of my own jigs.
I know, that's another thing I wanted to bring up. So you're big into that too. And what's your thing there? Like, how does that work?
Man, I before I ever started doing any of this, I always tied my own jigs, and that was one of the things when I was a little kid, stuck in the house so much because I was injured, wanting to fish. My parents bought me a jig tying, or it was actually for tying flies back then, because when I was a little kid, my parents are school teachers in the summertime, they drag us off to Arkansas and we go trout fishing
Hell
5-6 times a summer.
Hell yeah.
And that was something I could go do where I could heal and, be good by the time to go back to school. But I learned how to tie my own flies when I was like 7, 8 years old. I mean, I was making effective fishing baits. So I'd always kept that kit. And, 15 years ago when I moved to Dorcheat, I broke it back out and started tying my own jigs. And through fishing all the years, I developed certain colors that work really good, and I've got it narrowed down to about 5 colors and one certain style jig, and I can catch fish everywhere on it.
What colors are those? Can you share those?
Yeah, I mean, a dark green is one of the colors that people don't in the crappie world haven't really taken hold of. It's like a green pumpkin jigs. That color, dark green, just a regular gray, a gray with a chartreuse tail. Bright orange is a good one. And then there's one we call the Bistono jig. It's a pink head, purple body, chartreuse tail. Looks like nothing a fish would ever eat, but it is absolutely effective everywhere you go. It's the first bait out of town everywhere I go.
Why you call it Bistono jig?
That's what I've always heard it called.
Really? Okay, so it's already been a thing. Okay.
Yeah, and people in the rest of the country will call it a popsicle.
Okay.
But around this part of the world, it's the Bistono jig.
I used to fish the hell out of watermelon candy, man. Anything watermelon and Bistono, brush hogs.
It's just natural color. So
yeah,
you got to get back in the crappie world. People want them to use big bright baits and all that, and that works. It's got its place. It works. It's on the bright color jigs what I'm gonna put on first every day. But when you get past that, then you have to get back to your natural colors. With like they're eating the same thing bass are. They're eating shad. They're eating crawfish. They're eating brim.
Just smaller.
Yeah. And the bright orange, people don't think about it, but goldfish are a very invasive species. There are breeding populations of goldfish in every lake around here. So
that's crazy to think about. Is it just because people dump them in there?
Yeah.
And they just take over?
Yeah, it's not that they take over. They just start spawning, and they're there. So that's an available, natural colored forage that crappie and bass are all eating. But people don't think of that bright orange jig as being a natural color, but it's a very natural color and very effective a lot of times.
Well, how does it work with temperature? Because I know that back in the day when I'd pay attention when I'd be fishing, a lot of crappie fishermen are coming out when it's cold. In the deeper water, they'd start coming out around late winter, early spring. How does that work now? How does it work temperature wise?
Man, Live Scope has turned everybody's ideas on how everything works all the way upside down.
Okay, so all those old applications are kind of out the window now.
Straight out.
So we're not fishing at 15 foot of water when it's 30 degrees outside.
The crazy thing about it is, you see people go out there, and when it's cold outside, they're going to drop their bait all the way to the bottom, reel it up a couple turns, and they're going to sit there and wait.
Yeah.
99% of the population of fish is not on the bottom. They're up around in the water column, swimming around. I can't tell you how many days it's 32, 33 degrees outside. I may be fishing in 15 foot of water, but I'm fishing for a fish that's 5 foot down.
Really?
They'll be way up in the water column. I've caught them in cold water, swimming right under the top of the water. They'll get up there on a sunny day, and they'll sun up in the upper water column, and they're just not down where they were. What the cold weather does do sometimes is it schools them up in more concentrated areas and all. So that's kind of what your old school guys were doing a lot of times, was because of it would gather them up a little bit more. That's whenever they thought they were supposed to go fishing and supposed to go there. But the new technology and all have turned all those old ideas up on their head. Some of them it proved were correct. Everything else out the window.
What's your favorite layout to fish? What if your ideal? First off, what's your favorite thing to fish for? Is it white perch, crappie?
Man, no,
or it just depends on the day.
Speckled trout.
Speckled trout. Okay, where are you catching those at?
Holly Beach.
Man, I've never been fishing down there. I've heard it's fun.
Man, you go down there. It's
that's the next thing I was going to ask you. Are you doing any saltwater stuff?
No, I haven't yet. I very well may in the future, because my family has a camp down Holly Beach, and I'd like to do some things in the future that allow me to move down there for a couple months every summer. Just to.
Well, there's a lot of need for what you do down there too.
Sure.
But I've never got to. I've been off the shores off Florida and done red snapper, stuff like that.
Man, we catch big bull reds right off the beach.
But I'm never I've never been doing red fishing or nothing. That seems exciting to me. They say you do nothing better than that.
Yeah, it's fun. But like I said, but when it comes to fishing, it doesn't matter to me, man. Whatever tugs.
You just want to wet the hook, man.
Yeah, I want to wet the hook. Like today, and I couldn't fish. I spent the day sitting downstairs throwing a little bit of crawfish, catching channel cat there at the house, just because I'm going to be fishing somewhere.
Well, do you do any brim fishing, man?
I haven't been brim fishing in a while, but I do. In the month of May, I've got 3 brim trips set up.
No shit. People want to go brim fish. They call you and say, hey, man, we can catch some big old brim while they're spawning.
Yeah. I lined it up.
Where y'all going at?
You want to go to Lake Erland?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, there's giant chinky pin.
Hell yeah.
I'm hoping we can get up there and find a couple beds of them. But
if people don't know what chinky pin are, they're basically a big-ass brim, like similar to like a red ear or something.
They're called red ears.
Right, they are red ear, yeah. And then, but their scales have spikes on the end of them.
Yeah, but they get really big.
Yeah.
They're really fun to catch. They fight really good. And
There
is not a better eating fish in the lake.
Yeah,
they are good.
We used to catch the shit out of them, Bissano. Those and goggle eyes. I'll catch some damn goggle eyes too.
Yeah.
Well, so catfishing. So that's funny because I've never been a big cat fisherman. Like running trot lines and you know what else is the other?
Set hooks.
Set hooks, and then with the jugs. I don't know nothing about none of that. I've never done any of it. I always just, if we caught them tight line. You know.
That's the only way I like to fish for them.
Yeah.
I like to feel that tug on the end of my rod. So the trot lines, set hooks, and all that, I can take it or leave it. I'd much rather sit there on the bank and actually try to catch them on a rod and reel. That to me, that's fishing.
Yeah. Is there still a lot of jackfish around? Like, is they still around? Like, because we used to catch the shit out of them. Like,
going to bar pits, there's a lot of jackfish. And for people out there who don't know what a jackfish is, it's a chain pickerel. It's a member of the pike family. It's our pike that we have down here, and they get about 2-3 pounds. Good fighters, got a mouthful of teeth. They'll cut your bait off real quick. Mm-hmm. So in the bar pits where there's still a lot of grass, there's still a lot of jackfish. On Bistano, you rarely catch one anymore.
We used to catch them all the time and kill them, though. I mean, we did catch them.
Well, when they bring the lake up and down, a jackfish is a fish that's very dependent on aquatic vegetation. And when you take the aquatic vegetation, when they're raised and lowered the lake, that takes away your coontail, your hyacinth, hydrilla, and that's the kind of stuff the jackfish need to hide in that they don't have anymore.
Yeah.
But we catch them in the bar pits a little bit.
I just catch, if you're gonna throw, like, I remember fishing Bistano. If you threw a spinner bait, you were gonna catch damn jackfish at some point. Like it was gonna
shiny,
or damn Rapala, you throw a Rapala or something, they're gonna bite that son of a bitch. It don't matter what it is. Like, you're gonna catch one. You think you have a big ass bass on the hook. Next thing you know, it's like, damn.
What's worse than that is when you catch a grinnell.
Oh yeah.
Because then you really think you got something big.
Yeah.
You really don't have anything in.
Yeah. Those things are. Yeah. It's always been fun doing that. Man, there's something else I wanted to ask you. I forgot what the hell it was. But anyways, let's go back to bass fishing. Bass fishing. So, what's that look like now versus what it looked like 10 years ago? Like, is there any? You said they're using. How does it work with the live scope with bass fishing? Because I feel like bass populate different than crappie do, right?
They do. But what it allows you to do with bass fishing is you can scan around out there and you can move that thing out to where you say you're looking 100 foot.
Uh-huh.
And you can scan around out there and you can see that bass out there 50, 60 foot off just swimming. And those great big ones, they're not always going to be on a brush pile or by a stump. And the majority of the time, they're just out there swimming somewhere in the middle of the lake. And you can, once you figure out what you're doing, you can line it like Justin Smart. This past weekend, he went to tournaments to lead him in. End of the day, he didn't have any fish, and he needed to catch a couple. He went somewhere he knew there were some brush piles, and he swung around there, and that big girl sitting right up on top of him. He takes that Alabama rig, throws it out there, reels it right over her head, catches a 5-pounder. The next brush top they look in, they could tell it had fish in it. They really couldn't tell a whole lot about it, but what that allows you to do is you can keep that brush pile at 100 foot out there. You can take that Carolina rig or big worm, you can throw it right in there every time. You never miss. So it allows you just to...
You don't have to get right up on them.
And you can see them from that far off. And you say, just the biggest thing is you can see that brush pile out in that open water, middle of the lake. You're not trying to say, okay, I'm lining up this tree and this house over here, and it's got to be that way. You can shine out there and say it's right there, 38 foot out, right there, and it's got a fish on it. You can throw it out there, and it just makes you more efficient, just like the crappie fishing.
What are you fishing when you do bass? Are you doing any bass fishing lately? Or what are you fishing? Like, what are you? Are you running like shallow water? Or you fishing? You just wherever, whatever. So you throwing spinner baits? What are you doing? You doing
man? If I'm trying to do it with the live scope, I'm lining that fish up, and it's almost like shooting a duck because you got to really wrap.
You got to lead it.
You You got to lead it.
Yeah.
You got to wrap your mind around it. It takes a lot of looking at that live scope to be able to wrap your mind around the fact that figure out which way the fish is swimming, knowing he's 40 foot out there, and you got to wrap your mind around leading that fish and throwing that worm out there and having everything come together. And that's tough, but it's doable. And the people that are getting good at it, they're catching big ones.
Yeah, I can't. I gotta. Like I said, I need to get with you. I need to come one day because I need to get kind of acclimated to this because man, it was always fishing brush tops, fishing their channels, fishing treat, flipping jigs, flipping whatever.
But back to like you just said, the brush tops and crappie fishing. Mm-hmm. Before all this came out, everybody thought you got to go put out brush, you got to fish around brush, you got to fish brush. And you could always do that and catch a bunch of little ones. But what we figured out since this new technology has come out is that once a crappie gets about past a pound, he has no reason to be in a brush top anymore because once he gets past a pound, the only thing in the lake eating him is a giant catfish or a big giant bass. So once they get past about a pound, on a lot of these lakes, these crappie leave these brush tops and they're just out swimming around in the middle of the lake. They're not anywhere in any relation to brush. So, and that's where we're using the technology. They may be in the vicinity of brush, but they're not going to be in that brush top. You may pull up there and see that brush top, look through it with the live scope, see all the little fish, and swing out here, look 30 foot out here away from the brush top, and there's Big Mama just sitting out there chilling.
Yeah.
Because once they get past that certain size, they don't have to be in a brush pile anymore. That's one of the other biggest things is the amount of fish that are not out there in that brush pile. They're just out swimming around.
Yeah.
Like, when this all first came out, and we'll use Justin Smart again, he calls me up and said, man, you got to go down to Grand Bay and go see this. He says, unreal. He said,
how long ago was this?
4 years.
4 years ago.
He says, we'll get down there. He said, man, you get down there by the dam, 8 foot deep. He said, there's schools of crappie, you got 10,000 of them in it. And I was like, man, you're crazy. So we go down there. We're like the first people that had live scope around here. And we go down there, and there's all these people out there spider rigging, and they got their baits right down there on the bottom, and they're pulling up these little ones every now and then. Man, we get out there, and there's schools of crappie. They're so big, they cover up the screen of live scope, and they're all 2-pounders. My mom and I caught 100 2-pounders by noon one day.
Damn.
And we're catching these fish, and all these people out there, just arriving that came out, all these people were like, what are y'all doing? We had people getting in our boats, wanting to see it, following us around, and just, there was just giant schools of crappie that nobody was ever even fishing for because they were fishing deep, and these fish were never any deeper than 8 foot deep. They had no idea they were there, no way to know they were there, and we got out there in the open water and chased them around, and it was just absolutely unbelievable.
Grand Bayou's a fun lake to fish. I remember fishing that. I like fishing that at night for bass and Claiborne. I always love fishing those two lakes at night.
I'd really like to go to Grand Bayou at night and fish the bass.
Man, you let me know. Because I'm in. Let me know.
I know I've got absolutely every hump, bruch pop.
Let's go. I'm down.
Whole lake mapped out. I know where everything's at.
I'm down, dude. Because I hadn't done a good night. Man, I haven't done a good night fishing trip in probably 15 years, man. It's been a long time. But I used to fish the shit out of that lake in Claiborne and do pretty well. I mean, I'd always end up with 5 or 6 pounder on my stringer, but I just love it when it's so quiet. A lot of people may not even know this is a thing, but at night, especially when you're doing like a night tournament, you have like pretty much 12 hours, 7 to 7 normally is what it is. And everything's so quiet. And then when that son bitch hits, it's just like, it's like an explosion, because you don't have any birds chirping or crickets or nothing in the background. It's just quiet, There's nothing like it, man.
A lot of times you're always fishing topwater bait, and
that's fun too.
That's always good fun.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Well, what's your setup on what kind of rods and reels you using? Because I know people are gonna want to know these things. Like on a bass rig. First off, what are we doing bass rig?
Man, I'll throw a dozen of them on the deck of the boat, and it's gonna be everything from a spinning rod to an extra heavy jig rod to just bass fishing. You have to have so many different rods and reels and everything for so many different techniques that, but like for crappie fishing, my mainstay is ACC crappie sticks, 11-foot rod. That's what we're using day in, day out. And for some of my tournament fishing, I got some 15, 16-foot rods.
What do you, like, what weight of line are you using on those
8-pound fluorocarbon on almost everything.
For crappie? Mm-hmm. What do you use on bass?
Depends on where I'm at. If I'm fishing the bar pits, they're around the house, or it's real clear water.
Light.
I use 10-pound line.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to the river or Caddo, somewhere like that, it's usually 17-pound fluorocarbon. And then, I'm always going to keep a frog rod in the boat, and it's going to have 65-pound braid on it.
Yeah, so we're going to ask next. You got any braid on there?
Yeah. That way we can crank that lawnmower if we need to. But y'all, when it comes to fishing, you can make it as complicated as you want, or you can keep it as simple as you want.
Well, I feel like so many people do. Like, so many people get these, and that's just what I've seen in years past growing up. Because I grew up in it, man, and like I said, I've been detached from it for about 10 years. But so many people have an idea of this is what you got to use. This is the best rod ever. This is the best reel ever. This is the best line ever. This is the best type of soft plastic to throw. This is the best spinnerbait to throw. You know what I mean? I remember Terminator spinnerbaits come out and everybody thought that was the coolest shit ever, But I could still catch one on H&H if I needed to. You know what I mean?
It's one of the other good things about the crappie fishing bass fishing, like I was saying, you got all these different techniques. You got to buy a whole boatload of stuff. My tackle box as a professional crappie fisherman is about this big.
Yeah.
I've got literally a gallon Ziploc bag that's got my 8 different kinds of jigs I fish. I got 16th ounce and 32nd of each of those 4 or 5 colors. And then I got a little bag of plastics like this and jig heads to go with them. That's the entirety of my tackle box when it comes to crappie fishing. So you can really get into crappie fishing with a lot less money equipment-wise as you can bass fishing.
Well, do they bite anything else? I mean, I know they bite shiners, I know they bite jigs, but do they even bite anything else?
Man, you can get this. You can get as far off into it as you want to.
Oh, really?
You don't have to.
Okay.
The thing with the live scope is everybody has tried to recreate crappie fishing, and they don't have to. The same baits that the guys have been using for the past 100 years, the same jigs, everything, are still working right now without changing a thing. That's one of the reasons why I think I've done so good in crappie fishing, because before live scope came out, 100% of my crappie fishing was out of a 14-foot John boat with a paddle in one hand and a jig pole in the other.
Yes.
I never did the spider rigging. I never did trolling, all that stuff. So, and that's where tournament crappie fishing was at that point. Everybody trolled, everybody spider rigged. I never got into that. I only single pole fish. So whenever you give me this machine that shows my bait, and I can just flip out using the same stuff I've always used, flip out, and I can make that sucker bite. It was easy for me to get that figured out.
Yeah.
And I think it's what's made it easy for me to be able to take people on a daily basis and teach them how to use this new equipment. I mean, I take people who have never seen it at all, and I catch the first fish every day. I catch the first one, get the stink out of the boat, and then I hand them a pole. I never pick it up again, and we catch 40 or 50 fish every day. So I've got my teaching figured out pretty well, how to get these people lined out on it and get them using it effectively pretty quickly.
Is there no there's no limit? There's still no limit on those?
The limit's 50 per person.
Okay.
And that's another thing that the state of Louisiana really has been is lax on. They're really going to have to work on lowering our limits at some point.
I would say so, because it's becoming so popular now.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's not sustainable. The limits they have are 50 per person per day right now. In my boat, we don't even fish for if I got one person with me, we may fish for 50, but the majority of the time, I've got a 48-quart ice chest in the boat, and I tell them when we get this thing filled up, that's all I'm going to clean.
how many fish is that?
About 50 or 60.
So most of them are wanting to fish and take them home. They're not catch and release, or some of them.
Ain't nobody throwing them things back.
Oh, well, see, well, I mean,
why would you?
But yeah, I mean, no, I get it.
Some people are like, I'm gonna throw the big one back. Well, if you got a 2.5, 3 pound crappie, if it makes you feel good to throw that fish back, then throw him back.
Why would they want to throw that one back though?
Well, because it's just like Ryan, they're gonna throw a 10-pound bass back. A 10-pound bass, though, that thing may live another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
A crappie that's 2.5, 3 pounds, he is in the last 6 months of his life.
Okay.
He's already spawned 5 times at that point, and his genetics have been spread out through the population 5 times at that point. You keeping that big giant fish. Now, if you're keeping ice chest after ice chest full of them, sure, you can do something to the population, but you keep 1 or 2 of those great big ones a day, you're not doing anything to the population.
What's the biggest one you've caught so far?
3.6 pounds.
Where at?
Lake Grenada, Mississippi.
Where's that at? Like, where in Mississippi is that? Grenada?
Kind of northwest Mississippi.
Okay.
It's the land of the giants. You ever want to catch a 3-pounder, that's the place to go.
Okay. What about bass?
9 pounds, 14 ounces.
Where's that? Where'd you get that one at?
Door cheap.
Door cheap. No shit, door cheap.
Them bar pits out there, I've caught 5.
Dude, I've never caught. The biggest thing I've caught out there is 3 or 4 pounds.
I caught 5 or 6 over 9 pounds out there. I've just never caught my 10-pounder.
They bite different out there too. For me, for used to, versus you fish Bissano one day and then you go to Door Cheat the next. You run up the creek there and then go back in the bar pits. They don't seem to hit the bait as hard.
Well, it's just my biggest thing. I know the ones you're going to the ones we call the maze.
Yeah, the maze. Yeah.
That water up there is not quite as clear as the one south.
Right.
So a lot of what it is you need to look at your line size, and you're trying to throw two. You can get a Bissano, you can get away with 17, 20
You can use
pound
whatever.
line.
Yeah.
Get down there, the water's too clear. They'll sit and you don't catch them, and they do bite a little different for whatever reason, but. Over the years of living there, that's something I learned how to fish for. And
I can't believe you caught one that big out there. That's crazy. And all the places you fish, that's the biggest you've caught one. I've never caught. I think biggest one I caught, I want to say was a little over 8, and it was on the river, and it was 19 degrees. We were fishing a tournament. On the river. We put in at I believe. What was it back then? Was it
Clark's?
Clark's down there.
Mm-hmm.
It was Clark's. Yeah, we put in down there. And it was a cold son of a bitch. And I remember, and I know you've been there. It's so cold, you're dipping your rod in the water, because you got ice in the ice of your rod. And I was throwing, for the hell of it, we couldn't get them to bite on. A lot of people want to throw jigs when it's cold. I was throwing jigs, and we couldn't get them to bite. So the hell of it, I put a damn culprit. What was that, 8-inch or 9-inch or whatever, fire and ice worm. For some reason, I just said, hell, look, I'm trying every damn thing. I threw it on. I probably had like I don't know, 1/4 ounce. I don't know what kind of weight I had on there. But anyways, I threw that some bitch, and we were one of them ponds, and I'll be damned. Had big bass that day, but that was crazy, man. But you never know, I guess, on that kind of stuff. But
I've caught an 8.6 off the river before.
Yeah.
That was 1 over 8, and that was a big fish. That was the biggest one I ever caught on the river.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've ever gotten bigger than that. Not that I can remember. I've caught some. I've caught a lot on Bissano, but never 5-6 pounds. Never nothing crazy. But yeah, that's something that's crazy now because you see these guys ripping 10-pounders all day long here and there. I'm just like, damn, man, it's insane.
Man, that's the ones that are getting good with electronics.
Yeah,
I mean, because whenever you can find that big one and keep throw something out there in front of her, she's gonna eat it if she's hungry, and that's just things that nobody's ever been able to do before. With the new technology that's come out, it just makes it to where you can find that fish and try to catch her.
Yeah. How do you catch brim? How do you been fishing for those if you do go?
Well, I always have. Just get on the trolling motor. You find a bed of them.
You tight lining them, or you run like a cork and something?
I usually like to put a cork.
Little cork and what do you like? Some live bait, you worm, cricket, what?
If I'm gonna fish a chinky pin, and chinky pin's the only brim I fish for because I like to eat them.
Yeah.
I'm either gonna fish a crawfish or worms.
I like fishing with little crawfish, man. You catch them in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah, well, the thing about what people don't know about or don't think about chinky pin are an offshore species.
I didn't know that.
Their entire year, besides the 2 weeks they come in to spawn, they live in deep water and they feed off of mussels.
Okay.
Down south, they call them a shell cracker because they feed off the mussel beds and they find these little bitty mussels and their jaws are such where they can crush those up and eat them. So when they're out there living in deep water, they're only eating crawfish, invertebrates, worms, stuff like that. So when they push shallow to spawn, terrestrial insects have never been in their diet. They don't know to eat a cricket or grasshopper or whatever else. So I'm not saying when they're really eating on that bed and really fired up, you can catch them on anything.
Yeah.
But to be able to be fishing for what they're fishing with what they're usually eating, match the hatch. They're eating worms and crawfish, and mussels, stuff like that. So that's the more correct bait to fish for a chinky pin with.
We go hit base of trees, Bissano and run crawfish, and I'd catch every damn thing. We catch a lot of chinky pin, but you'll catch damn bass, you'll catch crappie, you'll catch catfish, you'll catch every damn thing. Sure. I mean, I feel like they all eat crawfish. I feel like, you catch them on, and people don't realize that they're in lakes. People just think about crawfish being in shallow farm water where we eat them,
And that's one of the things that I really think about more than a lot of people in my crappie fishing is the fact that a crappie, that sucker eats everything he can get in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of people I've said they want to use a real bright colored jig or something that looks like a shad, but they don't think about the fact that the crappie's eating mudcat, channel cat, grinnell, bass. They're eating everything they're even eating the baby crappie. They're eating everything that's in that lake. So whenever you get your mind around fishing either a bright colored bait or a shad colored bait and go to more to some of your browns and dark greens and stuff like that, you're imitating a lot more of what the fish is normally eating than just sticking with your shad and your bright colored baits. By getting off into your dark greens, your browns, some of your more natural colors, I think you can be a lot more effective that way instead of just going with the status quo and what everybody's always fishing with.
Yeah. Well, what the type of people you take on guides? These people that aren't experienced or never fished. Is it range?
You cover the whole spectrum.
Really? So it's just not like I would think because I went up and fished Ouachita one year, catch stripers, and I never went fish for stripers, so we got a guide, and man, I caught 15 pounds, 20 pounds. We caught a bunch. We were catching them on live bait though,
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I got a guide is because I didn't know what the hell we were doing,
Sure.
And that's a whole different fishing. It's not like bass fishing because he said when he bites this thing, you're going to want to set the hook like a bass, but you don't. You just slowly ease up.
Yeah, you got a circle hook on there.
Yeah.
You got to let the circle hook do its job.
Yeah.
So man, we just take people. Just take all kinds of people, and I'll tell you, the people that do the best with the live scope and the new technique, the new ways we're fishing, are the people that have never fished before.
Makes sense.
You get somebody. I tell people all the time, if you can get me a lady fisherman that's never touched a fishing pole before, I can have her catching fish quicker than a man that's bass fished his whole life because he has some kind of preconceived notion of what he's going to go do, and this lady doesn't.
Yeah.
And if they'll listen and do what I tell them to, we'll catch the shit out the fish. So I'll take everything from kids to old folks to just the whole spectrum of people. And a lot of times I'll talk to them before we go fishing, and I figure out what level of fishermen they are and what their skill set is and all. And then a lot of times that may dictate what lake we go to. So
okay, why is that?
Somebody that's I don't think is good, like the real old folks or kids or whatever, they're not going to be able to pitch the bait out there. Got you. I'll take them somewhere where I know there's going to be fish on brush tops, so we'll be able to drop a bait straight down over the top of and catch them. So we may tailor our trips and where we're going to go depending on what level of fishermen they are, how good of a fisherman they are.
Yeah. Well, I think it's cool too that you still fishing. You're still I think it's that most people that guide, they don't want to do that shit any other time. Like you just want to fish all the damn time.
Every day.
That's crazy to me. I mean, I could see that. I could see that. I don't think I could fish for the same thing every day.
No.
I feel like I'd have to mix it up.
But the guiding thing and being able to be a consistent guide and put people on fish every day, I've really got that figured out on the crappie. So that's really the only thing I'm really comfortable taking people fishing for right now. But I hope to get into some different things in the future as far as taking people and catching different things. But I love to fish for anything. Like I said, if I can get the sucker to tug my line, I'm happy.
I feel like catfish would be fun. That's something that it's almost like a lost art. You don't hear anybody talking about catfishing no more. You know what I mean?
And that's one of the things I really want to get into because that's something I can take people that doesn't require the hand-eye coordination that the live scope does. But the catfishing, man, we can take them out there and I can get anybody to reel catfish in.
Yeah,
we can probably take 5-year-olds and get them to reel catfish in. And that something I do look forward to trying to work into my guide services, doing some different things like that.
Yeah. Well, I just think that we always tight line with what is it called, where you put the big weight on the bottom and you have that sinks to the bottom and then you have your hook float. What rig is that called?
Tight line.
It's just tight line, I guess. Yeah.
There's a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
I don't know that rig actually has a name.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does. I don't know what it is. But that's how I was catfishing earlier.
Yeah, that's how we always do it. I mean, you catch anything?
Well, I caught a 6-pounder yesterday. Today I caught a couple of little 1-pounders.
Okay. All channel cat?
Yeah.
Yeah. You keep all those and eat them?
I keep the little ones. I didn't keep that big one. I'm keeping the little ones. I got them in my live box. I'll catch me half a dozen of them or so and fry them dudes up. Make some fish tacos or something.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I still think I still love eating bass, man. We used to catch the hell out of them, man.
A 1-pound bass, I'm going to tell you, that's my favorite fish to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a small bass more than I like a crappie.
Yeah.
A small bass, that's fine eating.
That and chinky pin whole. Whole chicken pen.
Or whole crappie. If I can get a little hand-sized whole crappie and pull the skin off of them and get them fried, I'm happy with that too.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites.
Well, what else is what's coming up for you? You got anything? You got any tournaments coming up?
We got an Elite Series tournament coming up on Millwood Lake in Arkansas.
Where's that in Arkansas?
It's kind of east of Texarkana.
Okay,
that's going to be at the end of this next month.
And that's crappie. Yeah.
And that's the Elite Series tournament. Other than that, and we got another tournament with them in September after that, and then our championship will be in October. But I'm not really doing a whole lot with the tournaments and all this summer because, like I was telling you earlier, the tournaments right now in crappie fishing at the national level, at the highest level, the sponsorships and all are not there yet for there really to be big payouts and stuff in that. So once you get past the top three, your payouts fall dramatically to where you're not making a living doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna fish, a couple tournaments, just to keep my name in the game more or less. But for the most part, I'm gonna be trying to stick to my guide service and go make some for sure money every day.
Yeah, I just still can't believe how quick it's taken off, and I feel like with the momentum it has, just what I've seen from 1,000-foot view, I feel like it's going to surpass bass. Or at least catch up to it.
Maybe. I hope it does. But the problem with tournament crappie fishing at this point is the live scope and the screen and the transducer to go with it to the basic setup. You're looking at $4,000.
Yeah.
That's just to get you a 12-inch monitor and a screen. That's not talking about the other screen I got on my boat, or the screen at the bow I got on my boat, or the trolling motor I got on my boat. I mean, we got $20,000 worth of electronics.
That's insane.
So to get into the crappie fishing at any kind of decent level, you got to really be willing to spend that kind of money. Now, there's more and more people spending that money, and there's more and more people coming into the sport all the time. But bass fishing, you can still go fish a bass tournament out of whatever boat with a pack of worms and a rod and reel.
Yeah.
Without any depth finders. And you can still kind of, especially in like the local trails and all, if you're good enough, you can win.
Yeah.
Because we're fishing shallow water lakes around here and stuff. And, you can still really get into tournament bass fishing a lot cheaper than you can tournament crappie fishing. I think at the short term, that's going to hurt the crappie fishing. But I think as it comes on, it will become more popular.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever get to where bass fishing's at because it's bass fishing. But it's going to get bigger.
I think it's crazy that the live scope, like the technology, we keep bringing that up. That technology's been around forever, but just implementing it for that application is new, right? But like the sonar technology and how that works, that technology's been around. It's just putting it into that format to use for that is new, which is crazy to think about, right? Like there's been around, for X amount of years, and then just so happens someone decided to, apply it here.
Mm-hmm.
That's just crazy to me to think about, because I think that, had that been around, had that someone thought of that and implemented it 10 years ago, the game would be changed,
Oh, the game's changed.
I know. It's just cool.
Change every day.
It's just cool to see it. You know what I mean? Like, because I've just only seen it done one way for so long.
Yeah. Hey, but you come get on my boat. Like one of the biggest things we've done here lately is everybody in the crappie world is putting 2 trolling motors on the back of their boat.
What?
Yeah, I got 2 40-pound thrust.
Wait,
trolling
what?
motors.
Okay, how does that work? How does that work?
That gives me reverse. So
Okay.
I got a stomp button up here where I can put my right foot on it. So as I'm drifting up to this fish or brush top or whatever, and your boat's drifting up there, well, you're trying to do everything for your boat gets there, and oftentimes you would drift over your target.
Okay.
And when you spin your trolling motor around to back off of it, the thrust it blows up on those fish will spook them. So as we're easing up to that fish now, we're able to keep our trolling motor and our live scope on them. And as I'm getting closer, I just step on that button over there to my right. Boat comes to a stop and catch that fish.
No shit.
Yeah. And that's whoever comes up with a effective way to. Because right now I'm having to go back there and deploy them both every time, pull them up every time.
Gotcha. Okay. That was my next question. Is how's that work? Because you have to run because it's so wide in the back. You have to run 2. It makes sense.
But whoever comes up with the first ones that deploy with a button and they're effective and don't tear up, they're gonna have some money.
I guarantee you, it's in the works.
It's in the works because that's another one of the things that the bass fishermen have looked at on our boats and going, I can use that.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be the next thing that is going to be on the back of every boat in America. It's 2 trolling
instead
motors.
of your what do they call the poles? The
Power poles.
poles.
Yeah. 'Cause up to this point, I had paddles on my power poles, which are big, big wide paddles that fit on your power poles. So when you deploy those, it slows your boat down, but your boat's still drifting forward.
Yeah, explain power poles for people because they don't understand. A lot of people see them and they're like, "Oh, that's like a damn anchor." I'm like, "No, it don't work that way."
Well, it's kind of like it's a shallow water anchor, but a power pole is just a pole that comes off your boat and deploys and goes down the water and the little spud sticks down the bottom in the water, and that stops your boat.
Yeah,
but the things
you can't use it in deep water though.
Well, the paddles. The paddles on there, and you let those down, and they would slow the drift of your boat. It's almost like throwing a drift sock out.
Yeah,
and it slowed your boat down, but you were still drifting forward. You never could get it to stop. But now that we've got these trolling motors on the back of the boat, we can pull up there, come to a dead stop, get that fish right where you want him.
What kind of trolling motors you running?
I've got a Garmin on the front of my boat.
Garmin makes trolling motors?
The best trolling motor.
No shit.
Yes.
I didn't know that. We used to run Minn Kota and Motor Guide.
Yeah, well, the Garmin's the first ones that have come out with a brushless trolling motor.
Okay.
And the sound under the water is negligible as compared to a Minn Kota or a Motor Guide.
Really?
Yes. And it's another one of those things that the fish are becoming more and more used to being targeted with a live scope and people targeting them in that way. The trolling motor noise is a huge factor in getting close to a fish.
How long has Garmin been making trolling motors?
4 years.
Okay, I was about to say, yeah, because
I bought the first one they had.
Okay, because I mean they make grass forever, but I didn't know that.
They've gotten into the trolling motors. Low Rance has brought out a brushless motor, which I'm not a fan of.
How does that even work?
I don't know.
You just put it in the water. I don't know.
I put it on the boat and turn that dude on. I don't know how the brushless motor works, but it works and it's very quiet. Very, very, very nice.
I just
Power Pole's coming out with its own trolling motor this year.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, good for them, man. Why not? Especially if it's better. But because you've only had really 2 choices for a long damn time.
Motor Guide
or Minn Kota, and I like both. I've had both. I didn't have a problem with either one of them.
The thing I like the most about one of the things I like about the Garmin company, period, is their customer service. If you ever tear anything up or mess anything up with them, you call. You either get a person in Kansas or in Oregon, where their other office is. You're going to get an American speaker that talks like you and I do, that can explain to you exactly what you need done. And say, any of my graphs, transducers, any of the stuff that I've ever torn up, call them up. They get to put you a brand new one in the mail that day.
Yeah.
Trolling motor, tear the trolling motor up. It's a $3,500 trolling motor. They make you put a deposit down, half the money. But they send you a brand new one. You send them the old one back. They put your money back in your account.
Damn.
And you're always going to talk to a very nice person that's very helpful. That is the greatest thing about the Garmin company I have to say is their customer services, hands down.
That's good to know. I had no clue.
Sure,
I said, I hadn't looked at it lately either.
They've never released any of the trolling motor parts or anything for any trolling motor repairman to be able to fix your trolling motor. So
you have to send it to them.
Send it to them, but they send you a brand new one.
So why not?
So instead of taking a Minn Kota and getting the same piece of junk worked on time and time again because it's wore out, they send you a brand new trolling motor.
Yeah.
And like I said, the company itself, hands down, the best I've ever dealt with.
I was running multiple boats, but I ran a Tide Crab back in the day. That's about all that was around. And then I ran a Triton. I really liked it. They're heavy. They are heavy and they're wide. But I did like my Triton, man. I ran it probably the longest. And I just had an 18-foot. I never had a real big boat. And then I fished out a bunch of big boats, like whenever the Blazers came out. And then what was that other one that came out that's real nice, like the Blazer? I don't know. Bullet, the Bullet. And there's another one, too, with the fancy rims on it. When it came out, I don't remember what the hell it was, but you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Ran one of those too. But I enjoy the whole, people don't understand. They see it from afar. It's kind of like NASCAR racing. They don't get it until they're into it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, it's just a bunch of damn rednecks. But no, man, there's a lot to it. There really is. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot of skill to it. It's not just going out there and throwing a bait in the water.
No, there's a lot of people that do that, and they're fishing. There's a whole big difference between fishing and catching.
Yeah.
They say that 10% of the fishermen catch 90% of the fish, and I fully believe that.
That makes sense.
So a lot of people go out fishing and they do it just purely for the love of getting out the house and going and doing something. maybe not expecting to catch something every time they go. They just love fishing. But then there's the rest of us, some of us. We're going out there to catch them. I try to be that person. I always have.
Well, good, man. Well, let's wrap this thing up. There any final thoughts? You got anything we didn't talk about you want to mention?
Not necessarily, man. I just want to tell people about my guide service called Big Sasquatch Outdoors.
You on all the social media platforms?
I'm on Facebook. I don't really do a whole lot of the rest of it. But you can find me on Facebook either at Big Sasquatch Outdoors or Wesley Miller. And if you want to get a hold of me to make a guide trip, get with me at 318-465-1668 and get with me and look a month or two ahead of time when you think you want to go, because I get all these people calling me all the time, hey, I want to go next week.
It don't work that way.
Next week was booked up 2 months ago. So when you want to go with me and want to come go, I welcome everybody to call me, but just really think a month or two out and, just schedule it a day and we'll go catch a bunch of fish.
Awesome. Sounds good, bro.
Yep.
Nice talk.